Hate crimes are real and they're detrimental to people's health. Like, it is insane.
A man accused of a racist tirade and an assault of a man and his 5-year-old daughter was released from jail just hours after his arrest.
Once released, that person's potentially capable of engaging in another attack, another assault.
Now, a movement to change a statewide policy on hate crimes is gaining traction. Should people charged with bias crimes be kept in jail or go free before their day in court? Here's the story. I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story, and welcome to Friday. Here we are again. Tonight we're going to begin by talking about bias attacks. Sometimes the attacks involve words, and often those are not criminal, even though they can send shockwaves of fear through an entire community. But other times they do involve violence and are a crime. And then the question becomes, should that put the accused in a special category that keeps them off the streets immediately? It's the question that is at the heart of our big story. Headlines come and go, but there are just some cases that we cannot forget about, including that ugly attack last month of a Japanese father and his 5-year-old daughter. They were riding their bikes along the Eastbank Esplanade when police say a man started yelling racial slurs, then punched them both, including the little girl. And if that wasn't bad enough, the guy was allowed to walk free just hours after being arrested. He was not held in jail, which got a lot of us wondering, how in the world does that happen? As investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi tells us, there's a movement now to keep that from happening again, to change a statewide policy and keep people charged with bias crimes behind bars.
The case of Dylan Kesterson sparked citywide outrage. You might recall he was released from jail just hours after allegedly assaulting a father and his 5-year-old daughter, both of Japanese descent, in a racially motivated attack in early July. Well, now Asian American groups, prosecutors, and even crime victims are pushing to change the statewide policy that allowed Kesterson to walk free. On Monday, a state subcommittee supported changing the rules so that people who are charged with first-degree bias crime are not released from jail before their case is heard by a judge. The Oregon District Attorneys Association, or prosecutors, sent a letter supporting the change, as did the Portland Japanese American Citizens League, or JACL, signed by 15 other Asian American organizations. John Kadachi is a Portland lawyer and former JACL president.
Once immediately released, that person's potentially capable of engaging in another attack, another assault. And so we think as the community that it's very important to keep that person locked up until they're presented before a judge who can make a better determination as far as a release or not.
The guidelines for when to release defendants prior to their first court appearance is based on a statewide order issued by Oregon's Chief Justice. The pretrial release guidelines were rewritten as a result of bail reform legislation and went into effect on July 1st, one day prior to Kesterson's arrest. In general, the new guidelines require that only people charged with more serious offenses, including violent felonies, sex crimes, and domestic violence felonies or misdemeanors, are held in jail until they appear before a judge. Advocates would like bias crimes to be added to that list.
And so having the Supreme Court include bias crimes as a hold until arraignment type of crime, I think gives some assurance that the system is treating that crime very seriously and protecting the public.
Kesterson was rearrested on July 6th after failing to show up in court. He pleaded not guilty and is now facing 23 counts, included charges stemming from several incidents prior to the July attack. A new indictment filed Monday accused Kesterson of a bias attack on April 9th, where he allegedly robbed a woman. Details of that incident have not been released. Kesterson is also accused of racially motivated attacks on April 17th, where he harassed 3 different women in downtown Portland because of their race. A security guard snapped these photos of Kesterson near the scene.
You know, hate crimes are real and they're detrimental to people's health. Like, it is insane.
One of the victims, Tyra Blackman, says she's still dealing with the physical and mental effects of that violent, unprovoked attack. The Michigan woman is frustrated that Kesterson wasn't apprehended after her assault in April and dumbfounded that he was allowed to walk free after a similar racist attack in July.
he could have easily assaulted someone else. Because as far as I understood, he pleaded not guilty to any of these, which means he doesn't see what was wrong with the issue. And so if you have people like that immediately released from jail, not knowing what the issue was, he can easily do it again.
A Japanese student living in Portland told KGW that Kesterson screamed at him and slapped him in the face on June 25th in downtown Portland. To date, no charges have been filed in that case.
I feel so afraid.
A recent report by the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission found anti-Asian incidents in the state increased by almost 200% last year. Victim advocates argue the courts need to take these cases seriously by holding people charged with bias crimes behind bars.
So, Kyle, what's the next step here?
Well, there are a few hoops to jump through. First, a committee has to make recommendations. Then it's up to the Chief Justice to amend the order. If and when that happens, each circuit court will have to amend its guidelines. It sounds relatively complicated, but at the end of the day, it's actually a fairly quick fix, or could be.
All right. And what more can you tell us about this Kesterson character?
Yeah, he's 34. He's homeless. According to court records, he's been living in Portland for about a year now. He doesn't have a criminal history. That really is significant because it's one of the factors considered when determining whether to release someone prior to arraignment, along with obviously the charges they're facing.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. While we're talking about law and order, something pretty unusual happened earlier this week at the Clackamas County Fair. A rookie state lawmaker named James Heeb got arrested by Clackamas County Sheriff's deputies. It's okay if you don't know him. He was just sworn in to replace Christine Drazen when she stepped down to run for governor. Heeb said that he was at the fair Wednesday talking with voters. Around 10 p.m. he said he'd had about 4 drinks and he went to hang out by the rodeo grounds to meet some friends and walk home.
A lady came up and was like, "You can't be smoking, no smoking," and I was like, "All right, whatever," and kind of blew her off. And she's like, "I'm gonna get the police," and I was like, "All right." I don't know, I didn't really think much of it.
But maybe he should have. Before long, he said 3 sheriff's deputies from Clackamas County were there. They arrested him, put him in handcuffs. Heeb said they charged him with disorderly conduct and interfering with a police officer. I asked him what he did to get those charges.
I just kind of, the lady told me no smoking. I was just like, okay, you're just kind of rude, and just kind of blew her off. Yeah, it was, outside. I was off by myself. I just, I know there's not supposed to be smoking on the fairgrounds, which in hindsight, I wish I would have waited till I had left. But I just never in a million years thought it would have blown into something so big.
And why did she say, "Okay, I'm calling the police"? You're saying you were blowing her off, but sometimes blowing off is just shrugging and looking the other way, and sometimes there's some choice words involved.
Yeah, no, I think it was mainly just me just being like, okay, whatever. I never raised my voice at her. I never called her bad names or anything like that. I just kind of was like, just blew her off. Was like, okay, whatever. Leave me alone, essentially. And
now, if you're thinking, come on, there has to be more to this story, I agree. I emailed the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to try and learn their side, but they would only confirm the arrest and the charges. I can tell you that Heeb has a background that includes several misdemeanors and violations. He also pointed out that he's a Marine combat veteran. It is a strange story, to be sure. The whole thing is so confusing, kind of the headline, state rep arrested over cigarette at the fair seems very strange.
Yes, I think so as well. And I don't really know what to think about it. I just, at this point, I wish that I would have made a better choice and waited till leaving the fair to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, there's still something missing here. We're going to bring you some updates when we get more of the story and sort it out and have it start to make more sense. Yesterday, we brought you a story that we thought would be worth your time, and based on your emails and voicemails, was it ever? It's about this great Willamette Week report by one of my favorite investigative reporters, Nigel Jaquist. It's titled, "2 Candidates for Governor Turn Over Their Tax Returns. Betsy Johnson Declines." The headline pretty much speaks for itself. Tina Kotek and Christine Drazen released their tax returns to Willamette Week. Johnson did not. The core of the issue comes down to transparency with voters. Experts say with the tax returns, the public can then spot any potential conflicts of interest for the candidates once it's clear where they're making their money. Johnson's camp cites privacy as her reason for keeping her finances hidden, but many of you disagree.
I feel that if you don't have anything to hide, then you should go ahead and dispose of the records that you have. So Betsy Johnson, I think, is wrong. She needs to let everyone know, just like the other two candidates, what her tax returns are. And for that, I will not be voting for her.
And how about this from Sherry? I feel that anyone seeking public office needs to be transparent about income, investments, and expenditures that relate to the issues and candidates the person supports. If privacy is that important, perhaps Betsy should not be considering being a public official. And even though a majority of you felt like Betsy Johnson should be more transparent, that was certainly not the case for everyone. Plenty of people agreed with Johnson's camp that privacy does matter.
I believe that they should follow all state requirements that are in place and nothing more. Privacy is a very important part, and if everyone was forced to reveal private information, no one would run for office.
This is absurd. Everybody has a right to privacy. I don't understand how this can even be an issue. It is completely absurd.
So there you go. We got it from both sides. A viewer named Pat sums it up here saying, let them all keep their personal taxes private. We're not interested in their private business. We are interested in what they're going to do for Oregon. The story of political candidates and their tax returns was amplified by former President Donald Trump's refusal to disclose his finances during the 2016 campaign. And the lawsuits surrounding that decision continue to this day, 6 years later. So, what do you think? Does Betsy Johnson's choice change the way you'll vote in November? Or is your mind already made up either way? Let us know. Send us an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com or leave a voicemail. Call our number 503-226-5090. With the start of the school year fast approaching, Mayor Ted Wheeler issues an emergency declaration concerning your kids and the homeless.
But it also, as a parent, makes you furious on a daily basis because I don't want to be here at work worrying about their safety.
The plan in place to ensure Portland kids can walk to school safely and how to check on changes in your neighborhood when the story returns. Welcome back. Keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com or give us a call, leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Let's talk about a complaint that we get a lot, especially with the start of the new school year coming up, homeless camps near schools. Here's a sample from within the last school year. Christina wrote, "I know homelessness is a huge problem in our city. However, the safety of our children attending public schools should be paramount. The entrance to the school's field is lined with homeless campers and tents and vans. Kids have to step over feces to get into the field. It's unacceptable." And we got this one from Amy, who wrote, "I'm the mom of a child starting at Kellogg Middle School. I'm deeply concerned about the state of Powell with homeless camps lining the street on our way to school. Our children deserve safe routes to school. We simply cannot have hundreds of children between the ages of 11 and 13 walking past these camps twice a day." Again, those were from the last school year, and some of the details may change, but I'm sure that many parents are just as concerned about this coming year. It looks like that message is getting through to Mayor Ted Wheeler. The Portland mayor is now banning camping along some routes that kids take to get to school. Christine Pitawanich has a look.
Yeah, the mayor expanded the scope of the emergency declaration, and you may remember back in February, the city banned camping along places like freeways and other high traffic areas in an attempt to protect vulnerable populations of people living out on the streets from getting killed or injured. And now the city is taking another step to try to ensure the safety of school-aged kids.
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Mom Catherine Schmidt has 2 teen daughters.
They're independent quite often. They're walking around the neighborhood on their own, and I want to make sure that they're safe.
And walking to school on a regular basis means they're no stranger to the city's homeless issues.
And so they don't feel safe with that. So they've had to reroute a few times.
That's why Mayor Ted Wheeler on Friday expanded the city's emergency declaration related to a ban on camping along high traffic areas to encompass areas around schools. Expansion of the emergency declaration prioritizes removal of encampments along what are called primary investment routes, which are basically the routes lots of kids tend to take to school. It also bans camping within 150 feet of school buildings. So to get a sense of what that really looks like, we're here at Lincoln High School in Southwest Portland, and we've got a measuring device. We decided to use this to measure what 150 feet looks like. So this is it, 150 feet. And that's put us here, about half a block away from the school, still close. And just 1 block further, at a little over 300 feet, you can see tents set up on the sidewalk.
I, along with most people, hope for a permanent solution where having to bring emergency orders repeatedly, which have to be reenacted regularly, is not really a solution. It's a stopgap measure.
Schmidt says she understands this is the reality of living in Portland. Her kids are learning to be careful, but as a parent, she gets worried.
They're so much savvier than I am, and not savvy in ways I necessarily wanted them to be.
Mayor Wheeler was not available to speak with us today, but city officials have told us that they prioritize removing camps from areas around schools every single year, though with this declaration, we may be seeing more of that. Again, this declaration means a ban on camping within 150 feet of school buildings, as well as on high-use walkways where kids typically walk to and from school. Those routes are on an interactive map that we've got on our KGW website. In Southwest Portland, Christine Pitawanich, KGW News.
So let's look now at the map. This was designed by Portland Safe Routes to School as part of a measure voters approved in 2016 to improve Portland streets to make them safer for kids walking to school. If you zoom in, you can see school areas there in the purple. The highlighted gray lines are the city's primary investment routes where camping will be banned. You can take a closer look at the map. We've got it embedded on our article at kgw.com. Meanwhile, earlier today, the Street Trust tweeted that they were not consulted about Mayor Wheeler's action. They're the Portland area lead for Oregon's Safe Routes to School team. They wrote, "It's our position that the real threat to students and families getting to school is traffic violence, not unhoused people. We must make strategic safety investments for vulnerable street users that are data-driven and empirically evaluated." Still ahead tonight on The Story. Take a look at this dazzling creature. It was just spotted in Washington state, the first time it's been in the United States ever seen. What the experts are saying about this monstrous moth and if they're a species we need to worry about. That's coming up after the break. Politics and sports are two subjects that go together maybe more often than you realize, especially for Oregon Senator Ron Wyden. He's a huge basketball fan. We got a hold of some of these pictures from his younger days. He played in high school and went to college on a basketball scholarship. And he's been involved in talks about the sale of the Blazers after the death of owner Paul Allen. He talked about it and the future of basketball in Portland with Laurel Porter this week on Straight Talk.
Trailblazers didn't have the greatest season this last year, but we're all looking towards the next season. And you want to
back, Nurk is
yeah,
healthy,
so
we're on our way.
I know you're looking ahead to hope they have a lot more winning seasons here at home. How concerned are you about the possibility they could be sold and moved out of Portland?
Well, of course, it was very good news when Phil Knight indicated that he wanted the team, he wants them to stay. I've had many conversations with him over the years about the importance. And of course, I've known Adam Silver for years, the commissioner of the NBA. He was an intern for Les Coyne.
So you go way back.
We go way, way back. And he's very funny. At one point, I said he was an intern for Les, and he sent me a little note. I got upgraded. I became a legislative counsel. I said, that's not
Get that right.
The point is, he understands how important it is that we keep the Blazers, here. And I also think that having a WNBA franchise would just be a slam dunk. And yesterday I was at the Sports Bra over on Broadway, the wonderful restaurant where you can see sports pretty much 24/7.
We love that focus on women's sports.
It's just so great. And I was saying to the people who were sitting next to me, what would you think about this city if we were sitting here and folks were getting ready to go to a WNBA playoff game at Moda? I mean, it would pump a lot of money into the city. It'd be something really to be excited about, and it would be good for the Blazers because you'd have 18 additional games at Moda in the summer, so that helped budgets and stuff.
Do you think that might happen?
Well,
a WNBA team?
I've sure made the case to Adam Silver that it would make a lot of sense. I'm not going to get into kind of private conversations, but there are a lot of women and others who are very interested in being part of this effort in Oregon.
And what are the chances, do you think, that Phil Knight would buy the team?
We were thrilled. We made a very real, offer. And, my hope is that Ms. Allen, sister of late Paul Allen, will just move to resolve this quickly. And I want Oregonians to know, the chairman of the Finance Committee and a big fan, I'm not going to let Portland experience what happened in Seattle where the team just pulled out overnight.
Interesting. You can watch Laurel's entire interview with Wyden tonight. They also talk about the new Inflation Reduction Act and how it could affect your household budget and efforts made toward wildfire prevention in Oregon. That's here on Channel 8 tonight at 7 or anytime on our KGW YouTube channel. Well, most of us have seen an odd-looking moth or two in our lives fluttering along the breeze, but I bet you've never seen one with a 10-inch wingspan. One of the world's largest moths now has been spotted in western Washington. Kaylee Greenberg explains where the creature comes from and why officials are looking to find out how it got here.
The photo here shows an atlas moth, its name hinting at the fact its wings look like a paper map. This next photo shows the insect photographed next to a human hand, and you can see its size, roughly 10 inches across.
What is that? That thing's 10 inches? That's... what the heck?
The moth was discovered last month in Bellevue. It's the first time the insect has ever been spotted in the United States, and its sheer size is shocking.
Imagining it that it's 10-inch wide, that's what's difficult to imagine.
Something unknown and huge. I don't like that.
The creature is usually found in the forests of Asia. It's considered a tropical moth. It's unclear how it traveled to the United States or if it can even survive Bellevue's climate.
If you were to see this, what do you think you'd do?
Probably just run.
It's actually pretty. Yeah, nice color.
The Washington State Department of Agriculture said the insect doesn't pose a public health threat. The agency is asking people to take pictures and report sightings. It will help determine if this moth is traveling alone or if there's in fact a population in the area.
Wow, how about that? Hey, keep sending your questions and comments to the story at KGW.com. When we come back, how you can be an impact player when it comes to getting school kids the supplies they need for class. Our Hey Help campaign is the KGW School Supply Drive. We're trying to raise enough money and supplies for more than 15,000 kids, and one of the best and easiest ways you can help is to give online. You can do it right now, in fact. Grab your phone, aim your camera at that QR code there on your screen, and then donate on our website. There's also a list of collection partners in your area where you can give in person if you'd rather do it that way. And if you don't have your phone right now, just remember, it's kgw.com/school. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll see you Monday.
This is KG.